Hi everyone, it's LockheartQT, and today I'll be covering the theory and speculation that the next Mass Effect game might feature a playable Milky Way and Andromeda galaxy. So before we start, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as well as maybe go check out the Mass Effect related Discord channel below in the description, as well as following me on Twitter for more Mass Effect and bioware content. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so as for the dual galaxy map idea, well, this theory is definitely interesting, as it explores the possibility of us playing in both the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxy in the same game. I think this would be really cool, but in terms of how bioware could pull this off, it becomes even trickier, as it took the Andromeda Initiative arcs 634 years to get to Andromeda from the Milky Way, so unless bioware set the game in the far future, or they somehow create a plot device to allow for travel between both galaxies, such as the Geth telescope, or I really hope this isn't the case, but time travel, then it seems really unlikely. However, in my opinion, having both galaxies being playable would be great, as this would not only please fans of the original trilogy, but Andromeda fans as well. Plus, this would allow bioware to bring back fan favourite locations and planets from both the original trilogy and Andromeda, such as maybe Ilium, Tuchanka, Novaria, and again even some planets from Andromeda such as Aya, which are beautiful locations and are definitely worth a playthrough. But maybe, some players didn't actually get to play Andromeda, so this would be their chance to discover these planets and locations. Now, I know you're asking yourself, well, how on earth can we play in both galaxies in the same game? It just doesn't make sense. Now, we've definitely had evidence to support the game taking place in either the Milky Way or Andromeda, but we've also had some evidence to support both galaxies in the same game, and I'll cover that right now. So as for proof with the Milky Way galaxy, we've seen a recent push for Shepard era merchandise on the BioWare Gear store, with nothing really from Mass Effect Andromeda being actively advertised, I suppose, plus the recent crossovers and collaborations with other gaming franchises such as EA's own Apex Legends, Destiny 2 and No Man's Sky have all been relating to the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect games, focusing on Liara, Garrus, Shepard, N7 as well as the Normandy, with the only recent crossover in the past 4 years or so being with The Sims that actually featured content from Mass Effect Andromeda. Next up, we've got N7 Day 2022. Here we see what's been confirmed as not being a mass relay by Michael Gamble himself, more on him later, but what's interesting here is the numbers in the bottom right corner. If read properly and interpreted as so, the numbers here could be a date of which this recording is being recorded, and if this can also be read as being either the 11th of July or the 7th of November in 2190, which is very interesting because it would put this recording just 4 years after Mass Effect 3's ending. But that's not all. The ship captain listed in this recording is definitely a Quarian via their name, either that or they come from a Quarian family, and we know that at the ending of Mass Effect Andromeda, the Quarian arc was not found and is still missing, with the story being adapted into a novel, meaning this is more likely to take place just after Mass Effect 3 in the Milky Way galaxy. Also, we have the audio.
I can see it. How did we miss this? Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance. Perhaps worse than most endearing fate.
In the background, we can obviously hear our resident Asari Shadowbroker, Liara Tassoni, talking to unknown characters, which definitely sounds like a lot of Geth in the background, at least it's Geth-like noises in the background. Speaking of the Geth though, we've seen them popping up constantly throughout the next Mass Effect game's teasers. Firstly, we have Legion's voice actor, as well as the Geth in general, making several posts last year stating that he's working on an unknown game title, and that he's also been liking posts specifically from Michael Gamble and BioWare on Twitter, specifically relating to anything to do with the next Mass Effect game, and he's been doing this for the last couple of years now on or off, so this is definitely an indication that he's either just, it's got nothing to do with the next game and he's just happy the next game's coming out, or he is indeed working on the next game, as he is the voice of every single Geth. So if the Geth are returning, which they most likely are, are, then he's definitely returning. We also have the N7 Day 2021 poster where we see a crater full of dead Geth bodies in the shape of a Geth's head, which would coincide perfectly with the perfect destroy ending of Mass Effect 3, where all synthetic life is cancelled out. A lot of people do believe this to be the canon ending of Mass Effect 3, but then if Perfect Destroy is the canon ending, then how are the Geth showing up in this transmission, and how are the Geth showing up in the N7 Day 2023 poster? I'll go onto that in a little bit as well. We also have much smaller things like BioWare telling a fan on Twitter to replay Mass Effect 3 if they're excited for the next game, concept art showing off what looks like either Ilium or Thessia, which we play in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. Also, we've seen in concept art signs and advertisements in the background on buildings, specifically from both Mass Effect Andromeda's club, which I cannot for the life of me think of the name of, as well as Omega from Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. And more importantly, we've also got the fact that this is probably the biggest glaring piece of evidence. Liara T'Soni is coming back. Although Asari can live for hundreds of years, it's currently unknown if Liara is actually older or not in this clip. We have had this clip from Game Informer.
And I feel like if you're interested in the future, obviously we know Liara's much older. I would put her at now around 800 years, given off the trailer, and also I've confirmed that she's much older with the BioWare devs as well. So we know it's very much set in the future. And so I feel like the ending of
this clip actually does talk about the fact that this journalist is either straight up lying and they were just making it up on the spot, as we don't have any official source indicating that Liara is indeed much older. BioWare have never stated this once. However, if you do look at this shot in the trailer, for me at least, she does look noticeably older, maybe having blemishes and wrinkles, but again, this could just be the CG in the trailer and it's got actually nothing to do with her age. I mean, she is probably going to be older, but the question is she a few years older, or is she hundreds of years older, putting her in a matriarch stage of her Asari life? Again, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so now for more evidence regarding Mass Effect Andromeda, and in the reveal trailer all the way back from 2020 shown off at the Game Awards, we see a shot of both Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxies, potentially teasing the idea of a dual galaxy map, with Michael Gambel also confirming that this was done intentionally, as well as hearing the audio, Arc 6 is away, Godspeed.
Arc 6 is away, Godspeed.
This specifically refers to the arcs from Mass Effect Andromeda, or even the missing Quarian arc, as well as the audio from Godspeed is directly taken from when we take off in the Tempest for the first time ever in Mass Effect Andromeda. Speaking of which, we've had Michael Gambel over on Twitter tweeting several times regarding the fact that we should play Mass Effect Andromeda, and that the team at BioWare themselves have actually gone back and replayed Andromeda to get ready for the next game, as well as telling people on Twitter who were upset by the possibility of Andromeda not returning for the next game to basically not worry. And if you look at a lot of his past tweets, it's pretty much confirmed that Andromeda will play some kind of role going forward into the next game, whether it's the fact that the game takes place in Andromeda, or if it's only for the fact that maybe Andromeda will be referenced in the story or the codex. But either way, Andromeda will probably be returning in some way. Now, next up is the big one. This is probably, for me at least, some of the big glaring evidence that this game will either take place in Andromeda or will feature Andromeda in some way, shape or form, and that is N7 Day 2023, where we not only got some new artwork but a brand new teaser trailer. And to the build up to all of this, we got encryptions that had to be solved by the community, with one in particular reading with an Andromeda distress signal. So with BioWare putting this here, this to me at least confirms some aspect of the story will feature Andromeda. And lastly, we have this shot of the nightclub seen in the poster artwork for N7 Day 2023. On this poster, we can see all returning species from the Milky Way. In the background, you can see some Turians, Solarians, Krogan, Hanar, Volus, Asari, the whole works. But we also potentially see a Ralloy, which are an avian species which we don't see in-game in Mass Effect, but they are actually referenced in the Legendary Edition's Codex. We also see possibly an Angara, which is the newest species we meet and have first contact with in Mass Effect Andromeda. Angarans can also be seen in the other pieces of concept art from other N7 days as well as the fact that we also see a Geth wearing what looks like to be a cloak or robes, which is very confusing and interesting. As I mentioned earlier, the fact that not only did we have the Geth crater poster with all the dead Geth, basically hinting that this could be a perfect destroy situation in terms of which ending they follow from Mass Effect 3, but we also have the Geth in the secret transmission, so the Geth will definitely feature in the game in some way, shape or form. But going a bit off script here, the question is now, will this game feature a dual galaxy map? This is very interesting to me, and with sort of leaks and speculation and rumours hinting that the next game won't be open world, that it will be linear, I can actually see this being a possibility. BioWare definitely though know that a lot of people love both Andromeda and the Milky Way. Again, you don't just want to alienate one particular set of fans, because if the game only took place in Andromeda, then understandably so, a lot of people from the original trilogy would be noticeably upset. And I can imagine right now, if you've seen any of my comment sections regarding Mass Effect Andromeda, people go in there just to drop hate on Andromeda, so you can imagine the outcry of fans as soon as they hear that the next game will essentially be an Andromeda sequel. But for me, I think it is more likely that we could just have the Milky Way, purely for the fact that Milky Way is more popular in terms of the original trilogy games, and the fact that it would be interesting to see what happens to our beloved Normandy, as well as the Normandy crew, and fan favourite characters from the original trilogy such as Liara. It would be more interesting to see what happens with those characters. But in terms of Andromeda, again, it's really interesting because with Andromeda, it didn't really get its day in the sun, as it was plagued by loads of bad marketing, as well as the game just being completely buggy, and we can't forget those facial animations as well as the story just being nowhere near as good as the original trilogy. So for me, this would be Andromeda's redemption arc. If Andromeda came back in some way, shape or form, this would be BioWare's chance to go back and maybe do Andromeda justice. But in terms of the Milky Way, this would be more interesting, as we could see things like Cerberus, maybe even the Reapers or Collectors returning. Again, who knows at this point? Hey, we could even see Leviathan return, but again, we'll have to wait and see. So tell me in the comments below, do you think that BioWare will implement a dual galaxy map in terms of both having the Milky Way and Andromeda playable in the same game? I think it would be really cool. I think it'd be awesome as well if you got to flick between both galaxy maps. It would be, a really cool thing to have in game in general. But tell me in the comments below, I'd really like to hear from you guys. And for more BioWare gaming and Mass Effect content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.